mission today is pretty clear. We're tackling how people are really using large language models like ChatGPT.
Right.
We want to move past those, simple hacks you see everywhere.
Yeah, the kick tips.
Exactly. And dive into how folks are leveraging AI as a genuine intellectual partner, something that multiplies clarity, speed, even strategic thinking.
And that shift in perspective, that's exactly what jumps out from the sources we looked at. We dug into this fantastic article detailing, I think it was 10 real-world problems solved in just 1 month.
Wow, okay.
Yeah, and covering everything from coding and content creation to like big business decisions and even personal stuff.
So a really broad range.
Totally. And the core idea holding it all together is key. It's this. Prompting isn't about just getting answers. It's about using AI to fundamentally remove friction. Friction in your life, your work, your thinking.
Friction removal. I like that.
The author actually calls this whole approach prompt thinking. It's intentional.
Okay, prompt thinking. That does sound more structured, like you're designing something, not just throwing questions out there.
Precisely. It's about building systems.
So for you listening, here's the plan. We're going to unpack these 10 solutions. We want to understand how you actually architect these intelligence flows, as the source calls them. See how that intentional design leads to these, compounding benefits. So let's get into it. Where's the most immediate impact?
Probably the technical side, right? AI is a technical accelerator.
Right. If you want that instant, undeniable ROI, tech is often the place to start. The time savings can be huge and, immediate.
Okay, first example, debugging unfamiliar code. Anyone in development knows that feeling, right? Inheriting some messy Python script, no comments, it's failing.
Oh, yeah. Total roadblock. Your heart sinks a little.
Exactly. It's just a cognitive logjam.
And normally that means what? An hour, 2 hours? Just tracing things, figuring out dependencies, maybe some yelling.
Definitely some yelling. But the prompt thinking way kind of flips that. The user fed the whole broken script to the AI, asked for 3 things. 1, explain it. 2, find the likely bugs. 3, suggest fixes and optimizations.
And that's where the friction removal really pops.
Right.
The result wasn't just working code.
Right.
It was optimized code. And get this, 12 minutes.
12 minutes.
Compared to that estimated 2 hours manually. What strikes me is the AI isn't getting frustrated or bogged down like a human would.
Exactly. It doesn't have that cognitive load issue. It just traces the data flows, no emotional baggage. A human brain stalls on that dense, unfamiliar stuff because of constant context switching. The AI, it's like this parallel processor for just understanding it, one continuous stream.
Okay, so if it can handle messy code from the past, it can certainly clarify things for the future. Which brings us to example 2, fixing requirements for dev sprints.
Ah, yes, the bane of many developers' existence.
That vague spec, right? Maybe 3 bullet points land on your desk.
And you know it's setting you up for rework later. It's that ambiguity tax we gave.
Ambiguity tax, I like that.
Yeah.
So in this case, the AI got the vague spec and was tasked with turning it into something, actionable.
Yeah, a structured development brief. Key outputs were things like clear user stories, very specific acceptance criteria, thinking through edge cases, and even test scenarios.
Let's pause on acceptance criteria.
Yeah.
That sounds technical, but why is that specific output so valuable for everyone listening?
Because asking for acceptance criteria forces logical closure. It means whatever gets built has to be testable, measurable. Does it actually meet the need? Yes or no?
Okay.
It prevents that scope creep, removes the guesswork for the devs. And the source said the big win wasn't just writing the spec faster.
Right.
It was the massive reduction in rework downstream. That saves huge amounts of time and makes the whole team clearer. That's using AI to bake in rigor where you usually just have vagueness.
Okay, so removing the ambiguity tax from tech specs. That makes me wonder, can it do the same for our own thinking? Structuring our ideas, our intellectual property.
Absolutely. Let's shift gears.
Let's talk content and generating high-quality output.
Yeah, this is where AI becomes more like a content architect. If you structure it right, it stops just solving one problem and starts multiplying your ideas, turns one concept into potentially exponential output.
So let's take structuring an abstract concept. We all have those big ideas rattling around, right? But they feel fuzzy, hard to explain or teach. The example was AI-first workflows. Cool idea, but where do you even begin?
Right. So the user applied prompt thinking. They used ChatGPT basically to wrestle that idea into shape, to make it cohesive, teachable.
What did that look like specifically?
The outputs were pretty concrete. A detailed 5-stage model, A suggested format for a visual diagram, real-world examples for each stage, and even a full teaching script outline. It wasn't just summarizing, it was imposing discipline on the idea.
And the payoff from that initial structuring.
Huge. It immediately spun off into three big assets: a Devino article, a workshop module they could use with clients, and the core outline for a book chapter later on.
That's real leverage. Unstructured thought turned into structured, potentially marketable assets.
Exactly right, which flows straight into the fourth example: accelerating book content drafting. And here, the difference between asking AI to think with you versus just write for you is critical.
Yeah, the source was really careful about that. They stressed they were not asking the AI to just, write chapter 3, not replacing the author's voice.
Or precisely. The AI's job was purely support for the author's own clarity. It helped organize existing notes, broke down sections into detailed subtopics, generated relevant examples, maybe some exercises to wrap things up.
It sped up the clarity phase.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Which is often the biggest bottleneck in big creative projects. It didn't replace the writing, it just made getting ready to write much faster and clearer.
Okay, so that's accelerating a big project. What about multiplying a smaller idea? The source talked about this leverage multiplier. Taking one concept, AI working memory was the example.
Yep.
And deliberately turning it into, 5 different things?
5 tailored assets. This is pure intelligence flow design. Define the core idea, define your platforms, define the structure needed for each. So, from AI working memory, the AI helped generate a full technical article for Dev.2,
Right.
a tight YouTube script outline, a visually driven carousel sequence for social media, a little mini email sequence, and even a short writing prompt for other creators.
That's fantastic discipline. Most people, they write the article and stop there.
Right. This multiply approach totally changes the economics of your ideas.
It really does.
It goes back to that flow design. It wasn't just make content. It was take idea X, apply structure Y, output assets Z, A, B, C, D. Very systematic.
And the last point in this section, number 6. This feels like a superpower, especially for educators or anyone explaining complex stuff, tailoring explanations for different audiences.
Oh, absolutely. Think about trying to explain, say, a complex API to a total newbie,
Right.
and then immediately turning around to explain the same thing to a senior engineer. You have to change everything, your words, the context, the depth.
It's exhausting, and you can easily miss the mark.
Totally prone to error. So the source found that being able to instantly rewrite the same technical topic for those different levels, beginner, intermediate, expert, just removed that whole painful rework cycle.
Making sure the message actually lands.
Exactly. It's about maximizing message penetration, not just raw speed.
Okay, wow. So we've covered code, we've covered content multiplication. Let's step up the stack now to the highest levels of thinking strategy, decision-making.
Yeah, this is where AI stops being just a tool and starts acting more like a sophisticated sparring partner, an intellectual foil.
A sparring partner. I like that. And what's interesting here is using it before you commit resources, right? Before the expensive part. Detail 7. Stress testing a product idea.
Right. Imagine you spent months dreaming up a new AI tool. You're excited, you lay it all out for the AI, and instead of just saying, great idea, it starts poking holes.
Okay, but how do you make sure it's poking the right holes? Not just generic business advice, but useful critique.
Good question. Rigorous prompting is key. You have to tell it. Act like a skeptical VC who knows this market. What are the 3 biggest risks to adoption here? What specific design choice makes us vulnerable?
So you're forcing it to consider real-world factors.
Exactly. Market dynamics, competition. In this case, the AI flagged some adoption risks and suggested a better onboarding flow the founder hadn't even considered.
And the outcome.
Saved weeks, potentially months, of building the wrong initial version. That upfront sparring match with the AI is incredibly valuable. More valuable than generating filler content, arguably.
Absolutely. That intellectual rigor up front.
And that theme carries right into the next point. Detail 8. Decision support. Specifically when you're stuck between 2 pretty good options.
The classic dilemma, analysis paralysis.
Yeah. And the AI doesn't choose for you. It just helps you structure your thinking about the choice.
How does it do that?
Yeah.
Because when we face 2 good options, we often get emotionally attached to one.
Right. We do. So the AI helped by doing things like listing the second-order consequences for each path, what happens 6 months later. It compared the subtle upsides versus the hidden downsides. And, crucially, it played devil's advocate against the user's preferred choice.
Forcing objectivity.
Exactly. It breaks that emotional attachment. It reinforces that core idea again. AI gets wiser when you treat it as a partner in structured thinking, not some magic answer machine.
Which leads to maybe the ultimate question about these intelligence flows.
Yeah.
How do you make sure your input is good enough to get a breakthrough output? The source hit this with problem 9, improving the quality of ideas.
Right, not just generating more ideas, but better ones. Most people ask AI to brainstorm divergently. Give me 10 ideas for X.
Yes, standard stuff.
Yeah.
Usually gets standard results.
But this user flipped it. They focused on convergent quality.
Ooh, I like that. Converging quality. So instead of asking for more ideas,
They asked, essentially, okay, considering my current resources, my team, our market position, how could we make this existing idea more transformative, more valuable, more original?
that's a much harder, much better question.
It's the ultimate feedback loop on your own strategy. The source explicitly said the quality of the AI's answers changed completely when the question shifted from breadth to depth, from quantity to originality. That's prompt thinking applied to editing your own strategy. Better questions, better breakthroughs. Simple as that.
Okay. We've hit coding, content, strategy. But the last item, number 10, feels maybe the most personal and maybe the hardest for people to really embrace. It's about turning inward.
Yeah. Detail 10. Personal clarity and reflection, using AI as a kind of journaling mirror. And I agree, I think this is maybe the most underrated, possibly the most transformative use case.
Why underrated?
Because we're generally terrible at being objective about ourselves, right? Our own frustrations, our patterns.
Okay, so what does that look like? How does AI actually help with self-awareness? Talk us through it.
It's about using the AI as that objective, non-judgmental observer. The user shares something complex, maybe emotional, a long journal entry about feeling stuck, or why a project bombed, or why they reacted badly to something, okay? And the AI's job isn't to give advice. It's to reflect back the structure of what was said.
So it's taking the messy emotional stuff and finding the patterns, like data points.
Exactly. It reflects back things like, I notice you used language of extreme self-criticism here and here, or the underlying assumption in these paragraphs seems to be that you lack control over X. It spots the biases, the blind spots we naturally miss when we're stuck inside our own heads.
You can't see the frame when you're in the picture?
Precisely. The AI removes that emotional fog and just gives you a clean reflection. That's AI-aided self-awareness, removing the friction of just confusion and self-doubt.
That is a really powerful place to end the list. Okay, so let's synthesize. Putting these 10 uses together, it wasn't just about finding clever tricks. It was about weaving AI into the fabric of work, and more than that, into the core thinking processes that define high-value output.
That's the core insight, I think. The real unlock happens when AI stops being just a tool you pick up occasionally and becomes this intentional partner. A partner in thinking, in building, and evolving your ideas. You're not just prompting anymore, you're designing these structured intelligence flows to handle the cognitive heavy lifting that isn't the core value add.
And the benefit for you, the listener, it compounds. When AI gets integrated across these layers, from fixing code right up to reflecting on your own biases, your output, your pace, your clarity, they don't just improve bit by bit, they start to compound, which leads to way more momentum and honestly probably more simplicity in your work and intellectual life.
And we've sort of established that this prompt thinking, designing these flows, it's not just technical, it's deeply human, right? It's about intent. The source material even hints the next step is understanding the psychology behind powerful prompts.
Right, how our own human intent shakes what the machine gives back. So if prompting isn't just technical, if it is deeply human, here's the final thought for you to take away. What part of your own thinking process causes the most friction? That one recurring bottleneck, maybe it is debugging or structuring ideas, or just that internal fog. Could you externalize that piece to an AI partner to get to your next level of clarity or speed? That's the question we'll leave you with.
Definitely something to think about. Until next time.
See you on the next Deep Dive.